Hi everyone, Joe and I are here today to talk to you specifically about opening questions. So, thinking about coaching sessions and starting out your conversation with a good, strong, powerful opener to open up the right kind of qualifications. So, we just wanted to share with you questions that we've come across, questions that we use, ones that we really like that achieve that. So, which one would you start with, Joe?
Our first one, I think, is how are you today?
Yeah.
Which gives people the opportunity to let off steam and say, oh, I'm exhausted, or I'm really excited, or I've got loads of energy today. So it just enables you to align on how you meet your client, if it's a coaching client, or if this is somebody in an organizational context and you're having a one-to-one with them, or even in the kitchen or at the coffee machine, you're using your skills just to start to build that rapport.
Yeah. One that I like would be similar to how are you today. It's one I picked up from my supervision course is how are you arriving today? Which is very similar, but I think how are you arriving is just like I'm arriving in a rush. I'm arriving frazzled. I'm arriving with this domestic storm having happened just before I stepped into this coaching session. So I think it's just another way to access that same ability to offload and explore how you are, but also for you as the coach then to be able to tune in to, right, how's my client arriving? What do I need to do? Do I need to center them before we move into this session? Is there something that they might need in order to kind of regroup and focus? So
Yeah, and what I like about the word arriving is that it's telling you that you're leaving somewhere else and you're
yes,
arriving something new. So I think it sort of marks out that transition and helps them to land or ground into the session.
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
So another one obviously is what's on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So um, what that plays into the what are you thinking about
Yeah,
that that you would like to talk about in
yeah,
the session today.
yeah. And I think there's something around what do you need to explore today? Sometimes coaching can feel very action orientated and it's all about, right, I need to do something. But sometimes just inviting that client to be able to go, do you know what, I just need to explore my thinking. I'm confused and this is what I need to unravel with you. So I quite like that as a question.
Yeah, and the complementary um, alternative to that is what would you like to focus on today,
Yeah,
which is kind of zooming out of maybe some of the fogginess and actually picking one thing
yeah,
out of a number of things that maybe they could have chosen to bring to the conversation.
yeah. I quite like where do you need to be at the end of this session? Kind of not in terms of right back in my office, there's the physical, but where do you need to be might be, I need to be in a place where I feel calm. I need to be in a place where I'm feeling that I've been able to let go. I think the where question, like it's a shifting question. Like it shifts you out of a certain pattern of thinking and into like a new way of thinking. So
Yeah,
that's one
because
that I
it
quite
feels
like.
different to the type of questions you'd
Mm,
normally be asked. So you've got to really stop and think about what
yeah,
that means. But I mean, for those people that are more action oriented, they might prefer a question of what do you want to achieve today?
yeah,
They might then say, I'd like to have a clear set of actions that I'm going to go away and do.
yeah,
So depending on who it is that you're talking to and their preferences, you're going to adapt your opening question to the conversation.
yeah. I think that
Another
Sorry, I was just going to say, you brought an action question there. Maybe going back to that somatic sense of how do you need to feel by the end of today. But so if you've got a client who is quite kinesthetic, who measures themselves based on their emotions and their feelings, that particularly if you're sensing they're arriving with some frazzledness, if that is even a word, like how do you need to feel at the end of today, then that can also be a good opener for them to be able to explore that, because by doing that they're also exploring how they are right now.
Yeah. And I like what's the growing edge for you this week? So if
Mm,
you're having regular conversations with somebody, you might use the reference of week by week. When we talk about what's the growing edge for you, it's what's a stretch for you this week? Where is there some discomfort? Where is there an opportunity for you to grow and develop? And do you want to actually explore or talk about?
Yeah.
So that's an alternative.
Probably just some more kind of basic ones. One that maybe I overuse is just like, hey, what's been happening this week? So again, if you're coaching people on a week by week basis, I know for some of my clients, so much can happen in a week, and they want to have the space to talk about their achievements and the things that they've learned through coaching and how they've been applying it and the successes. And I think that what's been happening is right, download with me. What are you proud of? What's not gone well? What are you struggling with? And that's usually a good place to start.
And sometimes, the purpose of the conversation for somebody is accountability. So they're coming back and talking about what's happened or what they've done and what's happened as a result of what they've done is what they need from the session to be able to say it out loud and celebrate it. And the other person, you as the coach or, the person that they have that close relationship with, recognizing what's gone into achieving that and having the outcome that they wanted. You might ask, what does success from our conversation look like today?
Yeah.
That plays into other senses. Those that are more visual thinkers would be able to connect into that and know exactly what that means. People that aren't so visual might think, what do you mean look like?
Yeah. And I think you shared one when we were chatting before around what or who do you need to bring today? That's a nice one. And in fact, I had a client session earlier where he brought a couple of different characters to explore ways of working and things like that. And often you do find clients literally bring people into a session, tell you about who they are, what their challenge is, how do they need to be, in exploring that. So I quite like the invitation of bring them in, let's take a look, let's work it out.
Yeah, just to review, which, because often topics, they are all related to relationships in the person's life. So, which relationship is it that you want to unfold or, do some work around today? Yeah. So there's lots of different questions. I think one of the things to be mindful of is how you're directing the conversation by the question that you begin with. And we were talking, weren't we, about how, you're setting the conversation up for more of a mentoring conversation versus a coaching conversation, depending on how you open the conversation and not taking the topic.
Yeah, so an example would be like, how can I help you today? It's a decent question, but if you dig into it in terms of the comparisons that we've just shown you, that I am here to help you adds a bit of a rescue element into your coaching, which could disempower your coachee. Now, it's an innocent question, but when you think about the questions that you pose, questions are powerful and they do shape conversations. So be aware of that. Another one that I shared with Joe that I play with sometimes with some clients. So I've some clients who have very, very long kind of relationships with, and we have, a bit of banter and a bit of humour. So I'll be like, right, what do you got for me this week? But quite rightly, that is a I'm here to fix you kind of question. Now, in that relationship where we've got the banter, it's meant with humour, and they still own the relationship, they still own their actions. But be aware of the language that you use and how you empower or disempower your client to move forward.
And in another session, we'll talk about how to close the conversation, because that impacts the person's experience of the conversation. It can impact what they actually go away and whether they do anything as a result of the conversation. So we'll give you some pointers on that too.
Yeah. So I hope you found it useful. Some great questions. Hopefully you can pick up and use, and we hope that you put them to use and get some value from them.